Good evening. Welcome to the Bethel Local Schools Board of Education Facilities Committee meeting. Today is Monday, June 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Tina, will you call the roll?
Okay, Mr. Gilbert? I'm present. Mr. Runkle? Mr. Elam?
Here.
Mrs. Sebastian?
Here.
Mrs. Reese? Mrs. Franz?
Here. Additions to the agenda. I have one, and that's we're going to start on a slideshow because I happened to go over to the site today and I thought it would be fun to see exactly where the construction's at. Sorry, I'm still learning to use Google Docs. My kids could do this better than I can. Construction pics, June 13th, 2022. This is the gymnasium of the K-5 building. And they will be pouring concrete there later. They started with the gravel base because they wanted the masons to get started on the block. So a lot of the other parts are concreted, but this part will be done probably in the next 4 weeks. This is the K2 wing, the mechanical building. This is the K2 wing, and the black pipes, if you see there, right in this area, that's where the bathrooms are going to be. Just a little, they had all the electrical outlets in the masonry. It was really interesting to see at this stage. This is the dining area, the cafeteria of the K-5 building, and they're just about finished with the last wall. You see how the wall is about halfway up there? They'll finish that, and then I was told next week they'll be putting the steel across both this and the gymnasium area, hopefully, weather permitting, of course. You never know how that goes around here. This is the 3-5 wing looking toward campus, and this isn't a great picture, but it's towards the back, the concreted parts where the 3-5 wing is, if that makes sense. I'm kind of standing where the entrance would be in the middle, at least when I took the picture. And then this is the athletic stadium site work, and I apologize for the poor quality of the picture, but you can kind of see the earth movers, and they're moving the dirt to level the field. Any questions on any of those pictures? Just thought that would be fun to see. All right. The first thing we need to talk about is the AES quote for moving the electric lines for the K-5 building. We need to move the poles, and AES, for those who don't know, is the follow-on from DP&L. They're now called AES. We have to move those to widen the road on 201. The cost is $114,387.90. The pole movement is above and beyond the initial scope of the road widening, so we will have to find a way to fund that. Is there any discussion?
Well, we won't be able to power our building if we don't have power, if we don't have this done. So, and we are in that funny situation where part of our school district is powered by DP&L or AES, and the other part is done by Pioneer. But there's nothing we can do about that. But
And this will also fix, you know, there's the pole right in the middle of the new driveway. This also remedies that, so this is part of that whole process. So the pole that's currently in the new driveway to the K-5 building will get moved as part of this quote.
And new poles are laying alongside the road. I drove by there yesterday, and the new poles are already laying beside the road on Broad Road.
Okay, is there a recommendation from the committee that we have the board vote on this later tonight?
I would recommend that we take a vote on this tonight at the regular board meeting.
Okay.
We have a comment.
Okay. Any other comments before we move on topic-wise?
Is it on now? Oh, definitely on now. So I just have a question. Where's the money coming from?
There are some PI monies available, so we're gonna take it out of permanent improvement funds.
Next on the list is parking lot resurfacing. Mr. Byrd, would you like to talk to us at the microphone and tell everyone what needs done, so, because you're much more expert at that than I.
There we go. So both the front and back parking lots of the existing facility were resurfaced in 2019, I believe. They're due to be resealed, crack sealed. They'll respray both front and back parking lot and restripe everything. Gets caught back up. We've got some cracks that are occurring, and this winter you could definitely see that some of them are opening up a little more than they should be. So there's 3 quotes that I gave you guys to take care of that and get us back on a schedule. And with having the new facility, we should get on some type of a rotation, so we're not doing it all at one time. They kind of broke the quote down into the front and the back. At that time in 2019, everything was done at one time, so I kind of feel like we need to get back to that point where we're at in 19, and then we could probably get on some type of a rotation. And then when the new facility's in, we'll kind of probably throw that in, you know, as well. So yeah, it's due, it's time, and we don't want to let it get any worse than it is, or we'll be replacing blacktop, and that's going to be a lot more expensive than just having it resealed and recoated.
So for those who may not be aware or who are newer, we paved this facility in 2017, and then it was resurfaced in 2019. I believe it might have been when the speed bumps were installed, but don't quote me on that. And then we're asking again for 2022. The cost of that is $37,800. Do I have a recommendation from the committee to proceed? Oh, sorry, is there more discussion?
Yeah, so I was on the board obviously in 2019 when we did the repaving or resurfacing, and we were told that it would last for 5 years. So I'm kind of shocked that we're looking at redoing this in 3 years. Seems to be in pretty good order, except for maybe some places that Todd had talked about. Is there any way or an option possibly of doing crack sealing and just fixing some things rather than spending the $37,000 and maybe delaying that for another year or two and go with a longer rotation? This is spending a lot of money every 3 years.
My understanding is most places redo their blacktop every couple years, Julie. I mean, well, Todd feels that it's time to have it done, or there will be more weather-related damage. There's, like you mentioned, some cracks and things like that, and he feels that it should be done.
Not owning a blacktop driveway, I don't have any experience with this, but don't most people seal their driveway once a year?
Every
Every 2 years? Okay. Depending on the kind of traffic that they get on it, perhaps?
Yeah, you're not getting the same amount of traffic that
Right. I was glad to see that the ditch that was dug there has been repaired. Correct.
And one other thing, Peterson Construction will cover a portion of the cost, because remember they had to dig through to put the water line in. So a couple $1,000s approximately of this? No. Oh, that was excluded, I'm sorry. Okay, so that was excluded on the bid. Okay, never mind. But so they are paying their portion of that, that area. I did not realize that wasn't included in the bid. Thank you.
And this is the back parking lot, the front parking lot, the loop road as well? All the roads, everything?
Which at 19, I think y'all looked it up, and it was the price was 31, I think, or 31, I believe. So I mean, it's obviously it's gone up.
Sure. Well, But that was by far the best bid, 37.5. Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Do I have a recommendation from the committee to move this to vote on it at the board meeting tonight?
I'll move for that,
Okay.
to recommend that.
Do we need to vote, or do we just need to, I mean,
I don't think we
we don't
vote
really
here.
need to, it's just a steering committee.
Yes.
Okay. Bathroom partitions for the K-5 building. This is for the new elementary school, not the old, just to clarify. This would change to 8 feet high and 4 inches off the floor, so they would be both taller and closer to the floor. Garmin Miller quoted an additional $35,104.25. The quote is good through June 22nd. The advantage of this is that it will give more privacy installs without being a unisex bathroom. And that seemed to be a concern from several in the community. Are there comments?
Yeah, so, I have a couple of questions. We haven't even started building these, so I'm kind of shocked that it's $35,000. We have roughly 40 stalls in the new building, both ends. And, this is just under $1,000 a stall. And are the, I don't really understand the need to make the height taller, it's little kids, but does it cover this way was the privacy concern.
Correct.
So,
Correct. There would be no peeking, for lack of a better way to explain it.
Yeah.
I have a picture, Julie, if you'd like to see it. I
No,
printed
I've seen
it.
the pictures, but why
Oh.
is it so expensive? This is almost $1,000 per stall, and we haven't even built the thing. We're not replacing.
Most, most of the quote was not for labor, it was for the materials. I can answer that because I looked through the quote. There's a small amount of profit, but the majority of the quote was for materials. And then I
That's-
think there was 15% for profit,
That's
if I read
correct.
the
But
quote
we already
correctly.
have some money there for materials, right? Because we've put money into it for the, whatever we were gonna get originally. So this should just be a delta. We're not ripping out something and replacing it.
I understand, but that's the quote. Garmin Miller went out and got our quotes. They've been very frugal this entire time. All I can tell you is the quote they got us back. That's all I know.
What's a delta?
The difference between what we have in it already and
Oh. All right. Okay. All right.
And this is for 42 total stalls. And it will require, I know, some redesign because I believe the handicapped stall has to be slightly enlarged because of some kind of space issues. I'm not exactly sure, maybe somebody in the audience can explain, but so the design will be just a little bit different. Does anyone else have comments? A parent or a teacher have a comment about whether this is a viable option or not? Yes, Rachel?
Thank you.
Okay, so, I mean, this seems to be more like a Band-Aid than a real solution. So why not just do it right and make them all individual stalls if that's the goal, versus doing something halfway and still having the same issue? I mean, just by making the partition taller, what does that accomplish?
What do you mean by individual stalls? These are individual stalls.
Why not just make them single-use bathrooms, like 40 individual use bathrooms? If that's the goal, so that anybody can use it, versus just building taller partitions. I mean, that makes zero sense.
Well, there are potential safety concerns with unisex stalls, which I will not go into in a public session, but there are safety concerns.
Well, this seems like a safety concern as well, and yet you don't have a problem ignoring those. So, I mean, let's start doing something that actually makes a difference instead of just trying to put Band-Aids on it. Because putting lipstick on this pig is not gonna make it any prettier.
We had a suggestion from a district resident at one time showing pictures of the Air Force Base and their individual stalls. If you want us to spend another $1 million on this,
I'd rather you do that and get rid of this cockamamie policy that y'all have and make everyone safe. Yeah. I mean, why not just put in 2 or 3 unisex bathrooms sprinkled throughout the new building or the existing buildings? I mean, that could solve your problem. Then you wouldn't need your policy. And that would appease everyone, I would think.
well, Mr. Byrd, at the end of this summer, how many will we have in this building? 3? We have one down by the 4th grade. We have one in the nurse's room. We have how many in this room? The new one down there? Mm-hmm. There'll be 5, is that correct?
I mean, why not do it in the new building before you even get started? I mean, it seems like now's the time versus waiting. If we're gonna spend $35,000 just in extra materials, why not, again, at least do something the right way and not just put a Band-Aid on it?
Well, personally, I'm not even for this. I'm not for this. And spending $35,000 for additional coverage in the stalls. I spoke to Marty Lang this week. I don't know if you know Marty, but he's a township resident. He's been an architect in many public works areas and such. And I think that we agree that do we really need more than what is necessary than for every public restroom in the country? Especially in an elementary building where your oldest students will be 11.
That's exactly the reason why you need more coverage than what you would need in a public restroom, because you're dealing with children who are mostly under the age of 18. That's exactly why you need more coverage. Not less, more. Because children need to be protected.
I hear, what you're saying is that we don't need more private, like one at a time bathrooms? Is that what you're?
No, I was just saying these extended stalls.
Yeah, I don't agree with the extended stalls because I think it's just a waste of money. It
So,
doesn't
I do as well.
solve any problem. But again, if we're in a building stage, if we're gonna do something, let's do something correct. I mean, I know a lot of places have, a unisex bathroom sprinkled throughout. So why not just incorporate that into the new building now?
I'm not sure if we have one in the new. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if we have one in the new building. If we have any
But again,
at all.
why not plan for that now instead of trying to retrofit something while we're still building it so that you don't have to worry about it. And it's gonna be cheaper going in now than later. That's all. I mean, it seems silly. It's just a Band-Aid, and I agree with you. It doesn't really solve anything.
But as you know, in a construction project, you were involved in this one, I think. I'm not sure if you were involved in this one or not, but we're trying to make it so that we can actually finish it.
Well, I hear that, but I mean, let's put the money into what is needed to get the kids in there. So they need bathrooms, so I don't think adding an extra bathroom here or there is gonna be more than this $35,000. Maybe you'll get one other bathroom for $35,000.
I didn't think turning the old band room into 2 classrooms was going to cost almost $400,000.
Well, that's building for you. we all know how that goes. But still, I just say that it's gonna be, now's the time to do it. That's all I'm saying, is if we're gonna try to come up with a solution or something feasible, let's do it now. Let's not just spend more and still have the same problem.
I just wanted to clarify, my understanding was this was a facilities planning meeting, not a safety policy meeting or anything like that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess my concern is, I just read an article in the paper a couple weeks ago that a kid got depantsed in the bathroom, had nothing to do with any transgender issues, so.
Correct.
I guess maybe in lieu of $35,000, maybe we should just hire monitors to stand in all the bathrooms to keep our kids safe. Because all of these kids, myself included, who graduated from Bethel, managed to go through bathrooms all by myself. Now I'm looking at you, since you two have, all three of you been chattering throughout the meeting. Been managed to go to the bathroom all by myself without having anything terrible happen to me, without having super tall partitions or super low partitions. So I guess I'm a little frustrated because I came to hear about the building, not about the policy, but the meeting appears to be co-opted. So as long as everyone's having their say, I would just say that I feel like this is a ridiculous waste of taxpayer money. All of this has been a ridiculous waste of taxpayer money. And as a taxpayer and a resident, I'm really disappointed in our community. Thank you.
I just was going to say that today, earlier in the building meeting, that I did get it confirmed that each of the kindergarten classes were going to have their own unisex bathroom in them. And I figured that was a good start. And I don't, it's too bad, well, it may not be too bad, but I was thinking it would be great if that could continue throughout. But there,
We just don't have the money. A unisex bathroom is expensive. It would probably be more than $35,000 to put one unisex bathroom in.
did we have, in the, I wasn't part of that initially, was there a breakdown, Tina, that you might remember, just asking if you would remember, seeing on the budget paperwork? Did it have the cost for the bathrooms individually called out? I know that would have been some time ago.
I don't, right. They don't
Yeah.
break it down by bathroom. They do utilities, plumbing,
Yeah.
you know, drainage, things of that nature, and it's all usually lumped together as utility cost. So it's sort of hard to say this is going to be the cost for the bathroom. They sort of have to provide, that's why they do the bids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think it's broken down to that
To that detail.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But you're welcome. Now, it is the, to answer your question, Mrs. Reese, that is the delta. That is what they're saying is going to cost more to put those additional, to change the partitions, because we changed the specs on them. So they have to reorder and do whatever. I agree. I think that's a little high, but when we looked at doing it here in the building, it was double that to do less number of bathrooms because we had to do major renovation. But that's what they're saying is the additional cost to change the specs on the partitions that we currently have with them.
And to be clear, this is not a change order. And it clearly says it on the bid. It's not a change order. It's just an estimate.
It will be
It
a
will be
change
a
order
change
if
order.
it's
Well,
if it's
it would
approved.
be, of
Yes.
course, but
Right.
on the bid, it clearly says it. On the
Mhm.
last page, this is not a change order.
Right.
Because it's not been ordered yet.
Right.
It's not a change order until we authorize them to move
Correct.
forward with it. And then they'll do the paperwork and create the change order and then present that for approval. So, that it would be a change order if the board approves that addition. And it would be coming out of our contingency funds because we are still $700,000 to the good as far as contingency funds are concerned.
Mrs. Brewer or Mrs. Henry, do either of you have comments? And if you do, please go to the microphone so we can get you on. Mrs. Henry and Mrs. Brewer are our BEA representatives.
If the board was to go through with this as an elementary teacher, I would like the higher stalls. We have issues where kids will jump up and hang on them. If they're 8 feet tall, the littler ones will not be able to jump and hang. That will alleviate some damage on the stalls that are occurring in this current building. We also have issues where the kids will crawl under a stall, lock the door, and then the stalls are locked. And a teacher either has to figure out how to get in there or send a kid back under. So if the board was to go through, it would alleviate some of those discipline issues in the restroom, because if they're 6 inches to the floor, a child's not gonna be able to crawl under them. So just another perspective in terms of safety from a teacher perspective of what we deal with in the restrooms.
Well, thank you. Damage prevention as well.
Yeah, and I know this isn't a perfect solution, but I've read a lot of information and heard from a lot of people in the community, and they want to compromise. This is, like I said, not a perfect solution, but I think this shows a compromise approach. I will make the recommendation that the board vote on this at the board meeting tonight. Okay. The next two items are kind of related. Todd, would you come to the microphone so we can go through those? And for those listening, Todd Bird is our maintenance director here at Bethel.
That's still on? Yep. Okay, so the bathroom partitions for middle school, we've received one bid that we're talking about existing. The existing facility, we're in works with 2 other companies to secure bids for those as well. So we don't have 3 bids for that, so we're working on that. And then if you go down to number 5, so we do have, Danny was talking about family bathrooms that we have in the existing facility. So in what we refer to as the colored hallway, I guess down by Mrs. Gross's classroom, there is a custodial closet that is big enough. We'd like to eliminate that custodial closet and actually turn that into a family bathroom. So it's big enough, there's enough room in there, and it would be a single-use bathroom. It would have a water closet, toilet, and a sink. So that would be another spot where we would have a single-use bathroom, and the board has 3 different bids for that work as well. So like I say, number 4, we're still looking at getting some other numbers, I think, to cover some of the existing facilities. I did recommend to the board 2 of the bathrooms in the middle school area and down by the elementary office was remodeled in 2009. Ms. Henry talked about the kids hanging on the stalls. That's one you could go take a look at. We've had to repair several times. And then the other bathroom group is down by by Mr. Elam's old choir room there, and both of those bathrooms were remodeled in 2009. The floor is in bad shape. The custodial crew has a really hard time. You can mop that thing as much as you want, it still does not look good. So those 2 bathrooms, they're needing a facelift anyhow. So if we did do something with partitions, those would need some flooring and just a facelift. The fixtures themselves, not too bad a shape, countertops, but 2009, that's been a while. And there's been a lot of middle school kids that are not, some of them like to mess around in the bathrooms and deface stuff, so.
Mr. Bird, if we wait to approve this till the July 11th facilities and board meeting, is that sufficient time to get the project done by school start?
I think so. Talking with one of the suppliers, he actually said that the place that he gets all his stuff from, a couple, 2-3 weeks, they could actually get the materials on hand, which I was kind of surprised with the way things are going. So by going with that, what that supplier told me, we could. So.
Are there any other comments or questions for Mr. Bird?
That's a nice time frame, 2 to 3 weeks. I would be surprised at that.
I was in hopes that the donor for number 5 was actually going to be able to make it to the meeting tonight, but unfortunately he is not going to be able to be here. But I would ask that you table number 5 until you have a chance to speak to him. And my understanding from his donation, he had a specific understanding of what that bathroom was going to entail when he made the donation. And I would be concerned that what he was promised by Mr. Firks isn't here, but what he was promised from Mr. Firks and what he's actually getting is not going to be the same thing. So
We will, at least I will not recommend the custodial closet until we as a board have received in the donation, until we have valued that and
the
voted on
donation's
that.
already been received. He's dropped it off. The donation is here. The issue is not in the donation being, I have the email. He's dropped the
Well,
donation off.
that's fine, but the board has to receive in that donation. We have not done that. We don't have a value for that. Until that happens, we cannot vote further. At least I'm not going to make that recommendation
Well,
because,
it's confusing since it's actually on the agenda. So
well,
yeah.
this agenda was put together a week ago. We didn't know the status of all of the projects. Mr. Bird has been getting quotes back daily. So when
It's
I
not necessarily a Mr. Bird issue, and I apologize, Tracy, since this is off topic, but it's not necessarily a Mr. Bird issue. It's an issue with the donor and making sure that he understands that what he was promised is not what he's actually going to be getting. That's all. Thank you.
And I also recommend we wait on that just because of the concern I brought up at the work session with possibly needing a resolution for that after speaking with the attorney.
Yeah, we need to receive
so-
that donation in, and it has to be valued, and that has not been done. So no, there was no, if it does appear on the agenda later, I'm not sure if Mrs. It does. It will be removed.
Okay.
Okay, next on the list is the elementary playground. I'm not going to go into detail on this tonight. We'll save this for the July meeting. But I wanted to update everyone. Garmin Miller suggested forming a playground committee. The plan is to move a good bit of the equipment already over by the elementary school over to the new facility, the new K-5 facility. We can't just have volunteer parents do that. You have to have licensed installers take care of that. We believe the PTO donated approximately $45,000 in 2 different chunks. So that will pay for hopefully all of it, and maybe we'll be able to buy a different piece of equipment. Ms. Laura Little indicated once we form that committee, she will work with those people and get them in contact with the vendors to see what else, the layout and just what else we can do with the playground. So if there are elementary parents listening in and interested in that committee, please send a note to someone on the facilities committee. Yes, Julie.
This came up at the still on? This came up at the work session, but I wasn't allowed to talk or ask the question, but we were told at one time that playground equipment also has to be approved, and that some of the equipment that we have, even though it's only a few years old, may not be able to be moved because it doesn't meet state requirements.
Again, that would be taken
So,
care of by the
I'm just
installer
saying
and
that
the
somebody
committee.
needs to be aware of that, right?
Correct. I'm sure Garmin Miller will work with whomever on that. They're pretty concerned with safety and always have been. So I thank you for your comments, though. I will send Mrs. Little a note just to mention that. All right. Athletic field options. We did get an update today. Yes. Okay. When we met at our core building team meeting this afternoon, Garmin Miller and Peterson presented 3 options. The first option, let me go back. When they excavated for the field, they found an egg-shaped rock on the northwest corner of the property. And by egg-shaped, I mean just that's the space where the rock is, not that there's an egg-shaped rock, but the path it is. So imagine an egg, and in the northwest corner of the field, there's rock close to the surface. The 3 options presented were at a cost of $85,000 was to remove the rock. B, at a cost of, I believe, $82,000 was to move the rock, move and fill dirt, and choice 1 would add additional cost, and that would be they would move a foot of dirt. They would raise the whole field a foot, and they would still remove some of the rock. And option 3 was raising the level 2 feet. That cost was $121,000, and there's also added expense because choice 1 on both option B and C would have to do some regrading for the tile and all of that. So, and redesign, I apologize, yes. So the consensus in that room, I asked, these are experts. They've run many building projects. The guys said, we don't know. But our recommendation, based on looking at the rock, and the person from Bruns they have looking at the rock, was to try to remove it and see, because that's the cheapest option right now, the $85,000. They think the rock has cracks and it'll be hopefully relatively easy to remove, but they could get down a foot and run into trouble. If they do that, they will call us and come back to us, and we'll figure out plan B. Bruns was also going to leave. Thankfully, you didn't know this, I talked to Jeremy after the meeting when I took the site tour. He did talk to Bruns and they are going to stay on site. The advantage of that is Bruns will continue doing our site work. If they leave, who knows when they would come back. So I think we made a good decision this afternoon, but I wanted to update the committee on that. Are there any questions about that? Because I probably didn't explain that as well as somebody more familiar could have.
And the farm field piece of that.
Go ahead.
For the second and third option, B and C, as Lori was noting, they would need to take the fill dirt from the field that has just been planted. So we would have to talk with that farmer, and he's already has it planted. So if we were to do the 1 foot or 2 foot of additional dirt, that's where it's going to come from, and that's going to disrupt his crops. And we've entered into a contract agreement with him, so it's just something else we'd have to explore.
And this is slightly unrelated, but I want to mention it so we're clear. The decision was made maybe a month or two ago. We did not have the funds to do the turf field, so we're going back with natural grass for the field. As a result, there is some added cost to redesigning the drainage, because what turf needs and what natural grass needs are two different things. They have not gotten those costs yet, but they will get those to us hopefully in the next month or two. And that's kind of, the reason I mention it is kind of all related to this rock. We don't know. They'll do the best they can and get back with us. Are there any questions on that?
Yes. Beat you. Caleb, Todd, are you familiar with rock removal at all? How's it done? Is it done just by machines, or is it blasting, or? Is there only 1 foot that needs to be removed, or just 1 foot?
Well, we actually need to dig down 2 feet.
2
There's
feet.
rock at the surface. They think the first foot will come fairly easily. What they don't know is after they get the first foot off, if it's going to be the same or if it's going to be more permanent. And unfortunately, this was news to me. We did have a lot of core samples taken over in the new area, but apparently, because of how the glacier settled things, you can take core samples and there's different levels. That's the best way I can explain it. Somebody geological can step in if they know more, but it's, it just was if we had shifted 50 feet, we may have been fine, or we may have hit another section of rock. Nobody really knows.
Yeah. Thank you, Todd.
Any other question? Oh, go ahead, Julie.
I was just gonna ask, where's the money coming from for both of these, the rock removal and if we're redesigning something in the stadium? We don't know the cost yet, but does that come from contingency?
The $85,000 is coming from contingency, yes. That was determined today. We have, I think, let me just check. Where's my total from today?
I think they mentioned that it might be closer to 90,000.
Yeah, right. I'm
And
sorry.
they are hoping they can take that from what's remaining on the rock allowance, but we're not sure. But it will, if anything, come out of the contingency.
In our current contingency right now, including all the change orders and projected change orders, is $728,288. So we're doing well. Now, I thought most of the rock contingency was gone, so I could be
I
wrong,
didn't-
but I believe it's
Maybe
gone.
it is, yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was mentioned that most of it was gone.
But we also have the construction manager contingency, which is over 400,000.
Okay.
And so that puts us a little over $1 million if we
Oh,
need
thank
to
you. Thank you.
look at, if there's additional costs that have to be looked at. I think, when we move forward with the excavation, it's, we have to be careful because there may be additional utility costs, but we're hoping this is the lesser of the three evils, so.
Yes, that's our owner contingency, and I should have specified. When I said $728,000, that's Bethel's contingency. There's
Right.
also, as she said, $400 and some thousand construction manager contingency, correct?
Correct.
So, in my opinion, the project is going well. But we're also, both parties are very aware we would like to finish the fifth grade wing, so everyone's very conscious of that contingency money. We're
Right.
trying to hold on to it if we can. I've been contacted by members outside our community when they hear we're only 10% over budget approximately from the original. They're astounded because with construction costs going up, they're like, you are really lucky. So I'm telling you from outside people, they've been shocked because there's another local school building that was not as fortunate.
I think the important thing to note is there won't be any redesign cost, hopefully, and it won't delay the project by 2 to 3 weeks waiting on
Correct.
the redesign. That's why we want to keep the contractors here, because we don't want to have to pay them to remobilize and come back out. So if we can keep them here and keep them moving forward so we can get the buildings open as quickly as possible. We're gonna wait and see what the cost is, because that, we'll have to see. I hope so, Julie.
And we won't talk about it in depth today, but Mr. Bird this is an addition, I apologize. There's been a lot of information thrown at me in 2 days, so if I'm not quite as organized as I should be, I apologize. He told us today in the core meeting, we do need to get a propane tank ordered. And it's an 18,000 gallon tank, which is what is over at the elementary site as well, or behind, back by the buses. He's able to find one used for approximately $118,000. So he's gonna work on that, and we'll talk about that for funding at the July facilities and board meeting. But I did wanna just mention that, and no, I don't know where we're gonna pay for that from. Unfortunately, that's not matchable funds, but by then we'll be in a new school year, and we will have the 22-23 PI money available. So, but the good thing about Peterson, because of the steel, they've been telling us what we need to order ahead of time because of lead times, and obviously they want to have a way to get heat. But I asked them today, how many other schools have this problem? And they kind of laughed. They said, well, most people have access to natural gas through the lines. So it was funny, a humorous story, or at least I thought it was. Yes, Julie?
Why wouldn't the propane tank have been in the original plans? If they're telling us we need it, it seems like they've blown it on several fronts for some of these
It was
things.
probably something no one even considered. They probably assumed since we were on a state route, we had access to natural gas, Julie. That would be my guess. But it's water under the bridge.
What was the cost again? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that
Yeah,
the first time.
The cost was, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bird, $118,000, and that's for an 18,000 gallon tank. And I did ask Todd, since we're likely getting it used, if he could get some kind of year or 5-year warranty, because I don't want to buy something used and then have something go wrong in 6 months and have all that cost spent. So he was going to look into that. All right. I will give the update from Peterson. Go ahead. There is a low spot somewhere on the site that they're going to backfill that in. That was my understanding. Good question. Any other comments on the athletic field? Okay. Okay, this is put together by Jeremy Myers with Peterson Construction. The masonry bearing around the dining room box is wrapping up, and if you remember from that picture I showed you, I'm gonna put it back on the screen. That's the mechanical building, sorry. That's right here. So the only thing they have left to do is the west-facing wall. All the other walls are done for the dining area. Masonry bearing around the mechanical rooms is underway. That's one of the 2 mechanical rooms. This is an important one. The first structural steel materials, which is for the gym and the dining room box, are due for delivery June 15th, and erection will occur right away. When I took the tour with Jeremy today, he was telling me the steel is actually what holds the walls together. They were very concerned when we got those tornado winds the other day. That could have been very devastating to our project, but we will have steel roofs on those soon. Underground plumbing for the kitchen has been completed. I don't think I got any pictures of that, but it's similar to some of the bathrooms. There were, instead of in the kitchen, there were electrical outlets that looked very similar to the black plumbing fixtures, but they were white. Slab preparation and pours are ongoing. They are approximately 50% complete for the entire building currently. This work will continue over the coming weeks, and if I remember, Brad said he planned to be done pouring concrete in July. And it's going very well. And really the 2 big areas they have left to pour when I was over there, the dining room and the gymnasium. Dirt work on the football field continues. Are there any questions with that report? Is there any hearing of the public for the facilities meeting? Do any board members have comments? Tina, did I miss anything? Or Natalie, did I miss anything? Okay. All right. Because of the time we're in, there is one other thing I'd like to ask. Would the facilities committee like to take a tour of the construction? Because we can schedule that either in July or August.
I would very much like to.
Would you like to do it like at 5:30, or do you want to do it? I hesitate because we may have some things to vote on in July or make recommendations. So what's opinions on that?
I think I can go about any time, I think.
Caleb and Rick, can you make it if we set it at 5:30? Okay, so I will check with Jeremy Myers and get back with you guys if we have a tour scheduled at 5:30 for the facilities committee, because I think you'll be like me. It's pretty exciting stuff to just go over and see it. So we will change that. The next meeting date and time. The meeting will start approximately 6. It might be 6:15 till we return, but at 5:30 we will be doing a tour of the site. So we will need to meet over there. Please bring hard hats, and please wear closed-toed shoes. If you have them, steel-toed boots are ideal, but if you don't, you have to wear closed-toed shoes, no sandals. And yes, I wore my husband's work boots that were steel-toes today when I took the tour. All right, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Mr. Elam adjourned. Can I have a second? Julie seconded. Mrs. Hageman, can you call the roll?
Okay, Mr. Gilbert? I say yes. Mr. Brunkel? Yes. Mr. Elam?
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese? Yes. Mrs. Franz?
Yes.
Thank you for attending today's meeting. We will start our board meeting at 7 p.m.
We are adjourning at 6:48.